In this video, we're going to explore the energetic pattern behind dispersing herbs, plants that break up stagnation, move stuck heat, and create flow in the body. You'll learn how to recognize dispersing qualities, some examples of common dispersing herbs used in seasonal and somatic herbalism. When you're in the Herbal Database and you look up an herb like Angelica, for example, along the top you're going to see a list of tags, and you see one right here that says dispersing. Now perhaps you don't know what that means, or you want to see what other herbs are classified that way. Just click on the tag and you'll have a very thorough definition and explanation, and that is what we're going to go through today. Now, this term dispersing was used a lot by the 19th century herbalists, the eclectics and the physiomedicalists. When I first started learning herbalism and I heard all about dispersing herbs, I really couldn't figure out exactly what they meant by that, but we have the answer now, so let's go through it. So, in the eclectic, physiomedical and Thomsonian traditions of the 1800s, this is what they meant. When they used the word dispersing, they meant that an herb could move stagnation outward toward the surface. It meant that the herb could release tension, heat, or congestion. It meant encouraging circulation to spread rather than pool, opening pores, promoting sweating or relieving pressure, as well as breaking up accumulations, whether that be lymphatic or inflammatory or even emotional. And it was often contrasted with the terms toning, which meant drawing inward. Remember, this is how the terms were used back then. The eclectic and physiomedical physicians of the 1800s wrote invaluable herbal Materia Medica, which are definitely worth reading, and they are located here in the Herbal Database under the section History of Western Medicine. However, they're a little bit difficult reading because their terminology just isn't that familiar to us these days. We do use herbal energetic terms, but not exactly the same way they intended. So this section on dispersing is going to be real helpful in understanding what they meant by the term dispersing, and we're going to compare it to how we use that concept today. So moving on, they contrasted dispersing with terms like toning, which meant drawing inward, relaxing, which is softening, stimulating meant moving upward, and astringing, which meant contracting. So dispersing was specifically about diffusion, spreading, scattering, relieving, venting. And we can compare it to a term that a lot of herbalists use today, which is to move upward and outward. So upward and outward is used to describe herbs that lift stagnation, vent heat or pressure, move lymph towards the surface, encourage circulation to spread, release emotional or somatic congestion, promote sweating or opening. And this is essentially the same functional category as dispersing. Here is a little chart that draws a comparison with the 19th century term and our more current movement language and what the shared meaning is. So dispersing means upward and outward today. The shared meaning is it moves stagnation outward, vents, spreads, and opens. Whereas relaxing, today we'll probably talk about how it moves downward and outward. And the shared meaning is that it softens, releases, and unwinds. The term stimulating in movement language simply means upward. It lifts and activates. And astringing means inward. It contracts and contains. So, dispersing equals upward and outward movement, with the caveat that some of the 19th century writers also used dispersing for cooling outward, like violet does, and warming outward, like ginger does, depending on the herb's energetics. Dispersing is a perfect historical anchor for spring lymphatics, emotional thaw, stagnation clearing, and surface opening herbs like cleavers, violet, and red clover. Now we're going to take a look over on the left-hand side and open up how dispersing became modern upward and outward energetics. If you go back to the 19th century herbalism, you find this word that shows up again and again, dispersing. And they used it back then to describe herbs that could break up what was stuck, whether it be heat, tension, lymph, or emotion, and move it outward to the surface. They did not talk about energetics the way we do now. They talked about movement. When the body was tight, hot, or congested, they reached for herbs that could spread, vent, open, and diffuse, and they watched for signs that the body was trying to push something outward. And those would be things like sweating, flushing, softening, loosening, and they matched herbs to that direction. Dispersing meant, let this move, let this rise, let this out. But the language changed over time. When we moved into the 20th and 21st centuries, the vocabulary changed, but the pattern stayed the same. Our modern energetics began to describe herbs not just by what they did, but by the direction they moved things. So upward, for example, equals lifting stagnation, activating circulation. And outward meant venting, heating, opening pores, releasing pressure. And so when you put that together, it becomes the movement pattern we use now, which is upward and outward. It's the same logic the physiomedicalists were using, but just expressed in a way that's more intuitive for contemporary people. Here's a simple map that you can use. All right, so let's go back to dispersing, and I just want to quickly show you some of the herbs that are tagged as dispersing. Look on the left-hand side of the screen. In fact, we'll open it up all the way. And these are herbs that are tagged as dispersing. And you see all these little icons here. Those are all tags. So we've got black peppercorn, elderflower, hyssop. And there is color coding, which you'll learn about when you get into the database. That'll help you refine this a little bit more. So I hope that that has helped you. And we will move on to the next video in our warming series, which is going to be about ginger.